we have here today. What's happening, great people? We are here for the March 18th edition of Systems Lab Live. We in the building. Please tell me where y'all are from, what y'all are up to, okay? Because today is a brand new week. And who's excited about this brand new week? I know I am. I know that I am excited for this brand new week. And so, what's cool about these new beginnings, folks, is that there's something going on. There's always something going on. And project leaders, creatives, I was supposed to say OMBs, OBMs, online business managers, those that are in the project spaces, listen up, folks. I know that there is a lot going on because there's only 2 more weeks left in Q1. There's only 2 more weeks left. And some of y'all are maybe at the end of a project. Some of y'all in the middle. Maybe some of y'all are beginning. But please drop in the comments. Would love to know, number 1, where are you from? Number 2, what are you working on? What are you working on? For those of you who are new, welcome to Systems Lab Live. I'm excited to be with you all here today. We are in the Built from Scratch series. Man, and what an exciting time we've been having. This is week 6. And for those that maybe are still a little fuzzy about what we're doing, or just want a reminder, because hey, from day to day, hour to hour, minute by minute, lots of things are going on. The Built from Scratch series is centered on this one question: what does it take? What does it take to build good programs, projects, and initiatives from scratch? That is what we are asking. What does it take? What does it take to build from scratch? And so we're taking this holistic perspective. I've been talking in the beginning of the series and on the podcast, which is out right now. If you go to the link in the bio or the YouTube or LinkedIn Live show notes, you'll be able to click on the Conversations with Ask Ash podcast, go to the trailer, the explainer episode. I'll tell you all about the holistic perspective of Built from Scratch. So I'm coming from a few different angles, from the technical perspective, me as a career PM, me in the operations space. Also, what does it mean to build your faith from scratch? Examples in the Bible. We're coming at it from the perspective of being an entrepreneur, being a creator. What does it mean to build from scratch? So it's a lot of different things, but as we come week to week, we're going to be peeling and unpacking some of these layers. Right now, we're in a Project Foundations 101 format right now. So we've been talking about the project charter. We've been talking about the elements of scope and, what does it take to make sure that our project charters are robust and that they are necessary. Tonight, we're talking about low balance alert. We're talking about that notification that you get on your phone that says low balance alert. And we're talking about project budgets. And so we're going to be talking about money, because we don't get to talk about the money stuff enough. Oh, and I love that Ashley Sturgis says she's working on her retreat. My goodness, events and retreats, they are, my friends, one of the epitome and I would say top examples of how to create and build from scratch. There's a lot of great events going on. I'm excited. There's a lot of ways that you can go and build this. So it's much, and it's exciting. There's all sorts of different elements to it, and that's exciting. Very, very exciting. Okay. Also, last week we talked a bit about project charters. We talked about why they're necessary, why they're foundational for the work ahead. What does that mean exactly? That means writing down from the perspective of what's the scope, meaning what are you doing, what are you not doing? We're talking about the budget, we're talking about deadlines, we're talking about key tasks and the people that are involved. These are the things, whether you are a solopreneur or whether you are part of a team of 20 or a corporation of 500,000. These are great tools to help you and your team and across your organization for you all to learn from. And so that's why the documentation piece is so crucial. So whether you can take some time out, whether it's 30 minutes, whether it's an hour, just being able to document and write down, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? What is the purpose? Who's involved is really going to help spearhead and really help to make sure that you have the right roots in place. So that's my little spiel on the project charters. Inside the podcast that's out now, one of the things that dropped that was a little new from episode 1 to episode 2 is the 30-second, or I don't think it's 30 seconds, I think it's about a minute. It's like a minute ClickUp VIP day mention. It's an offer. And so for those of you that may not know, or maybe you've heard of VIP days because I've talked about it in the past, we are doing VIP days, ClickUp VIP days. And what those are this is where I pair up with a team, a project leader that's a part of an organization. And what we do is I help you build out 3 project workflows in one day. I love this because this is an opportunity to reset efficiency in how you're doing your work. And this is what it's about. ClickUp VIP days. It's actually ClickUp and project management VIP days. You also get another specialized live training where it's a customized training. It could be on risk management. It could be on communications. It could be on how to do project planning better. And so we have a few key areas that typically people desire to learn more about and lean into. So I go and do that training as well. So that's separate from the actual VIP day. To learn more about it, I have that information in the link in the bio for Instagram, but also LinkedIn and on YouTube as well. So there's 4 slots open. And so I would love for you guys to check that out, pass it along too for anyone that you're connected with that may be looking at, how do I go about streamlining the work? How do I go about making sure that my projects are what they are, meaning that they are efficient? So we have a good time for the VIP days, I tell you, a good time. Something I would love for you all to do is make sure that you share this particular live stream, even in the replay, to 3 people. 3 people who, listen, the money is funny. They are figuring out how they're going to make this project work. And so you need to tell a friend to tell a friend. We're talking about project budget. So go ahead and send that out. Send it out, send it out, send it out. Something that we're going to be talking about this week. Well, it's interesting because the way that we're doing this particular series right now is that the podcast episode that we're recapping every week is really last week's episode. So this week's episode is focused on risk management, which I'm very excited about. We're going to talk about that next week, but we're going to talk about last week's episode, which is great too, because listen, if you haven't had the opportunity to listen to last week's episode, you can this week before episode 4 comes out. But we're talking about here today is Casey Nicole Jackson. She is a mid-level PM. She is a part of a state government agency. And what they're looking to do is they're looking to coordinate better services, right? Better services that they're looking to coordinate amongst underrepresented populations when it comes to the social services aspects of things. And so I think this is where, honestly, it's the epitome of really cool mobile app projects. And so I like it because what she's doing is she's literally building this from scratch. And a part of her role is to put together a budget. In the episode, we're talking about a few things. We're talking about the cost of rework. We talk about, accounting for money that may be needed for rework. For instance, you may need to have some extra funds in the tank, a contingency plan if we want to get technical about it. And then we also talk about, internal cost failure, external cost failure as well. And I'm going to do a couple things where I will take out our handy dandiest of notebooks. We always love to use GoodNotes. I think GoodNotes has proven to be such an awesome tool to use. So as you all are, you know, settling into the live stream, hello, Regina. I owe you some direct messages. Good to see you. Let's see. Let me go to the podcast piece. I want to start writing out. Let's look at this. Everybody should have good notes. If for some reason the oh, okay, hold on. The mean green episode. I'm gonna open this. I'm actually gonna open up the script, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about how we want to do that. What's going on, Shatora? We're talking about money and budgets. And so tonight we're going to be talking through how we put together best practices in budget planning and budget strategy. We're going to talk about the cost of change tonight as well, knowing what you need. And and hey, sometimes that you often won't know what you need. Sometimes you just don't know what you need until you run into it. I think it's safe to say that whether you are an event planner, whether you are a systems person, whether you are a part of a team, I think that there is something to be said about money being on reserve. So keep that in mind. So for this Systems Lab Live, let me I'm gonna get this together. Let me copy this, and then I will share. Let's see. Okay, here we go. And as you guys are waiting for me, we are pulling this up. And I'm gonna write on here, and then we'll pull something up. So I'm writing down here best practices. I want you guys to take some notes too. Best practices in developing a budget strategy. I shared with my email community that typically what happens, at least for me, is that you could be in a situation where you could be assigned projects with no money, or you could be assigned projects that have money, right? And I'm sure some of you all have been there, those that have worked in corporate. You kind of know that you're kind of at the beck and call of the company and what's handed to you. So you may not always get everything that you think that you may need. So I think that's always something to be said. Browser can't access your screen. Hold on. Ooh. Ooh, ooh. Hold on. Now I'm wondering. Here we go. StreamYard is sharing a window, but browser can't access. Try capturing a different screen to see if this continues. Let's see. I'm going to see if this happens again. That's okay. Let's see. It says a browser can't access the screen. All right. Well, we're just going to rock and roll. C. Lewis Black is in the building. So I'm going to write down what I have on my on the iPad, and then we're just going to talk everything through. We make adjustments. We make adjustments. C. Lewis Black is in the building. What's going on, Corey? Great to see you. Okay, so let's talk through best practices in a budget strategy. So a few things I think to consider when it comes to the budgeting aspect, I do want to take it from two different perspectives, and I think we can merge both of them. We're going to start with the perspective of Casey. And from her lens, she is looking at what should I be doing in terms of developing a sound budget, like a sound budget strategy. And what I mean by sound is something that's robust, something that's thought through. Really, that's really what I'm talking about as a robust project strategy. So what should we consider? Because I think some of the obvious things are people, technology, resources, materials, things like that. So I think so I would say, as I write this down, this is what I would say are some of the more obvious things in terms of what should be included in a budget. We know about the people, we know about resources, and depending on your industry, it could be many different things. I'm just going to write down a few things like equipment. I'm going to say things like food. I'm going to say things like technology. I'm going to say things like software. I'm going to say things like software. What else am I going to say? I'm going to also say materials. I just want to make sure that we're going to be covering many different people who will either work with their hands, people that work in software, content creation, they are in business management and consulting, all different types of things. So that's what we know these things to be true. Okay, there we go. We know these things to be true of the typical things that we cover with a budget. Okay, so if we speed past that just a little bit, not too much, like 10 miles over, I do want to make sure that we have a good understanding of a solid or sound budget strategy. What is it that you should be considering? What should Casey be considering? Because again, this is a mobile app. So I'm thinking to myself, as I looked at my past experience, what I've seen, and some research, automatically I'm thinking about rework. I'm instantly thinking about rework and the cost of change. So I want to talk a bit about what does this cost of change look like? Cost of change. I think this is a powerful particular piece of topic that we have here today. I think it's recognizing, as I said in the podcast, that it's expensive to have a loose scope, especially if you don't have the proper budget resources where you can maybe play around with some things. Maybe you have the liberty and the luxury to be able to experiment. I think in most scenarios, in most places, there's not a lot of room for too much experimentation. Perhaps even I can even imagine in a corporation like Apple and Google, there's only but so much experimentation or looseness that's happening on a day-to-day basis. Okay, they still trying to make money on, what is it? We're gonna be on iPhone 16, right? I think we're on 15 now. We're gonna be on 16 probably later this year. So they're still trying to, work stuff out and stay in the game. So when I talk about the cost of change, I am particularly talking about the cost of what happens when the scope is not clear. What happens when in the middle of the project, the scope changes? Have we thought through the cost of change? And in some respects, it's not that you can't change or that you shouldn't change, meaning not you yourself, but that the project shouldn't change. What I'm saying is that when there are things that are totally not accounted for, like you just sped past it, didn't pass go, and didn't collect $2,200, like point blank, like you just missed it. So the cost of change, think through that when you are working on your projects. And so for Casey, it's going to be super important that the scope and the requirements, what are they Have they been properly identified? Is she thinking through, when we're talking about the cost of change, is she thinking through, do I have the money, the funding, and the resources? And we're talking about the changes and the fixes along with that. So cost of change, that's number one. That's something that we all should be thinking and considering, the cost of change. The cost of change. So I think that's, listen, folks, this is also quite exciting, the cost of change. Okay. So in app development, there's something also called, well, I'll put that to the side. We're talking about app development, but I do want to make sure that we are also highlighting another aspect, which is internal failure. I'm writing this down. Who's familiar with this? We're getting kind of techie tonight. So, but don't you worry and do not fear. Don't you worry and do not fear. Awesome. Thank you so much, Elaine. Thank you so much. Okay. We're talking about internal failure costs. This is really what happens when before something is delivered to a client, it's discovered that there's a defect. Okay. So this is detected through some sort of like quality assurance check or something like that. I'm imagining that the Apple iPhone, the Samsung, the Androids probably have a lot of internal cost failure. Okay. These are the costs that are incurred to remedy defects discovered before the product or service is delivered to the customer. I'm thinking that there's a lot of internal failure with even, I did say cell phones, probably cars too, right? So let's write that down. Some examples are iPhone, Samsung, probably cars too, right? You may need to even do a quick little Google search. Internal cost failure on cars. I'm thinking, right? Ooh. 8 internal failure costs that every company should watch. Here we go. So there's different internal failure costs, and we should break these things down. We talk about this a bit about the podcast. We talk about waste, performance of unnecessary work or holding of stock as a result of errors, poor organization or communication, rework, correction of defective material or errors, scrap, defective product or material that cannot be repaired, used, or sold. Okay. So when we think about Casey going through the project planning process, going through the execution process, she's going to need to understand that internal failure costs could be something that she should be considering. Waste, scrap, rework. You know what I'm saying? These are the types of things. I think, listen, how many of y'all are really digging some of this right now? What are some of y'all thoughts on the cost, the internal failure costs? Okay. You know what I'm saying? Who's thinking through that? And I think some of this is also a matter of understanding the why and the root cause of it. That could be many things. Like to talk about poor organization, miscommunication, right? There's many reasons why something like this may happen. It's not always a point your finger, somebody did this wrong, someone did that wrong. And I think that's really important. As I'm looking something up too, I wanted to make sure that we're putting something in context. But I think you guys in the comments, let me know what you guys are thinking through when we're talking about internal failure. And there's also something called external failure. So these are costs incurred to remedy defects discovered by the customers. So this is interesting. Internal cost failure, we're talking about prior to delivery, of the customer. External is after the discovery has been made. Now, I want to put on, for example, for some of my service providers, my graphic designers, my content creators, those that are in the social media spaces that are creating, those that are creating on behalf of a client that is producing very visual work. I would love to know, what have you experienced when it comes to external failure? This is probably something, this is a new type of terminology that many of y'all may not necessarily be familiar with. You're maybe familiar with a complaint of some sort, but this is what it's essentially categorized in the PM world. We're talking about the external cost failure. Okay, when it's discovered after the client has seen your deliverable afterwards. So that could be a website that has been developed and they come back and say, hey, I need you to retool that. In fact, I've experienced that myself. I've witnessed that with a client. He came back working with the client, working on their internal project processes, came back and saying, hey, I discovered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things. What does that mean? What does exactly that mean? So in terms of Casey, I want to go and draw that back to her because she's the primary story. She's our primary hero in the story, or what do you call it? The main character. She's our main character in this whole thing. For her, when she's looking at the budget, she's taking into account the software. She's taking care of the contractors, the resources, the materials, the software, the technology, all these things, right? She's working with acquisitions to make sure she got the proper people in place to do this work. But she does have to take into account, man, what about external failure? What about internal failure? Have I budgeted for that? I think that is something, that is absolutely something that that should be noted. That should be noted in the comments. What are we thinking when we are talking about rework and we're talking about maybe that we have to go back even before something is discovered by the client and perform some rework? What are we thinking through when it comes to the client that discovered the issue, that discovered the error? What do you do in those situations? I'd love to know. I'd love to know. What do you all do? What do you all do? Yep. Excellent. 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 Talk to me. Talk to me, people. Good. All right. Well, listen, we're going to keep on moving through. Again, this episode can be found. Oh, I was just sitting there opening up my in Instagram. Okay, I'm going to actually share my screen here. Maybe they'll allow me to share the tab because I couldn't share this here. Okay, if you guys go here, go to the Mean Green episode, and this is where you can listen to on Apple and Spotify. This is where all the timestamps are, so you can go straight to the case study for budgeting for success. And so we have about 20 or so minutes of that right here. The first 20 minutes, we're also talking through that Slack report on productivity, on the state of work. I wouldn't skip that one either, but that's one of my favorites. So go ahead and check out right here the Mean Green episode. Definitely leave your input right here, and I'm gonna share this tab as well. And then we'll have a few more remarks before we close out. Okay. So right here, this is the mural board that I have that you can give your feedback on. We'll be doing another live stream too on Coda and what my process was in developing the season. We'll do that as well, and what things I'm changing for the next go around. So what you can do here, this is pretty easy to follow. You can drop your questions. If you have general questions about the season, grab a sticky right here and double click, type in here and ask your question. I would implore you to go and ask your question. I think it's exciting to use a mural board in this new and exciting way. And so that is something that is very, very exciting. Very, very exciting. Use the mural board, y'all. It is super, super, super fun. Super fun. Okay. As we work through, and I want to go through some of these notes here. Let me go here as well. Another piece that's also going to be really, really helpful for this particular project that Casey's on is we're going to be talking about quality management. This is going to be something that's really going to be crucial for anyone who has a project, whether you're in events, whether you are in management consulting, healthcare, whether you are also an entrepreneur and you have a team of one or a team of 2 or 3, you should be thinking through quality management. What do we mean by quality management? I'm so glad somebody asked that. I love these questions. We're talking about defining the quality standards for deliverables of a project. Here's the thing, folks, is oftentimes we have the requirements, we have the scope, and as long as we meet those things, we're cool. But what about the quality for the standard of work? That's where we get into this aspect of the external or the internal failure costs. Okay. This is where we get ourselves into doing too much rework. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about defining quality standards for deliverables, this is what we're talking about. What are the measures? What are the assurances that we have in place to make sure that the standards are met when you are turning in a deliverable to a client? Because it's not enough to be able to say, well, put that in, boom. Do you have a standard? Do you have a way to measure this? Do you have a checklist? Come on, let's talk about tactical things. Do you have a document that you have? I believe every service provider, every type of agency, especially my digital creative agencies, you all need a quality management plan. You need a way in which you have a standard for measuring the work that you're doing. It's not enough to say, I've developed this particular website, this logo, these content pieces. What is the quality of standard that you have for it? Let's take a pause. Let's take a beat there, because I think this is truly something that we got to start putting pen to paper on and really start thinking through. Okay. So when we talk about that, we're talking about what the customer or the stakeholder needs from the project deliverables. Okay. That's what we talk about. We talk about quality, but I want to make sure and stress that this is a mechanism. This is a method. This is something that you're utilizing to decode and to decide inside of this particular deliverable that you've actually met it. What are the steps? Okay. Hey, you set the standard. And so it is your company. It is the deliverable that you are setting forth. So yes, you can say, okay, well, we've done this, that, and the other. We've done this, that, and the other. You can be able to say that. But hello, people. Let's talk more about, and let's get into the whole thing about you being able to set up the standard for yourself, for your team, for your organization, for your brand and your business. Come on. This is some good stuff, y'all. What is the process? What is the process? What is your QA process? Content creator. What is your QA process? App developer. What is your QA process? Website developer. What is your QA process? Ads man. Is that a truth ads person? You know what I mean? The people who do all the ads and stuff. What is your QA process? Person that has VIP days. Come on, let's talk to you. What is that QA process? Who's with me? Who is with me? We cooking tonight, y'all. We cooking with grease. We cooking tonight, y'all. So Casey's going to need it. She's going to need a QA process to ensure that the app is functional and that it meets the requirements. And so from a software testing perspective, I'm stepping into something. From a software development perspective, we can see that there are systematic processes from my research that has taken place where you have predefined standards. Okay. Predefined standards. And so that's what she's going to have to put in place. She's also going to want to even make sure when she's in the acquisitions process, making sure that you're hiring talent that's competent and comparable, right, to what's going on. Come on, somebody. What's the QA process? Podcaster, podcast production. What's the QA process? What's the QA process? I'm trying to hook y'all so that y'all kind of know what we working with tonight. Let me just tell y'all the biggest takeaway from this episode. The biggest takeaway from this episode is that a budget plan isn't just I'm listing out how to create a budget. Like I have a budget. But this is also looking at how you're going to handle rework, complaints, and the cost of change. Let me say that one more time. When we're talking about budget and budget planning, we're not talking about let me get my Excel spreadsheet and just put some stuff in, put some numbers in. What we're talking about is how you handle rework, complaints, and the cost of change. That's what we're talking about here tonight. Woo, this is good. I'm telling you, we cooking with grease tonight, baby. Grease tonight. So what can you do with budgeting? What can you do in terms of how you would create one? You can certainly do that with Microsoft Excel. I'm not going to be mad at it. I'm not going to be mad at Excel. I always say this. You can start at Excel. Just don't stay there. Come on. Just don't stay there. It's a powerful tool. But when we talk about this aspect of information speaking to one another and things of that nature, we want to make sure that our data can speak to particular tasks and things. Would I recommend doing a particular budget inside of ClickUp? Probably not. Probably not. I think it's an interesting concept. Am I 100% against it? Nah, not really. Not really. I'm not really 100% against it, but I think it could be interesting. I think it could be interesting. And so maybe we should just go on and take a look. Let's go take a look. Let's go take a look. No. Let's go take a look at how you can do a ClickUp budget. I'm just gonna look at that. Let me see something. And so you can do, because you can do it. And I'm gonna share my screen. Well, you know what I'll do? I will share it. Let me see if this shares. But then what I will do is open something up for you all to look at and how this kind of goes. So this is gonna show you right here the initiation, planning, and the execution. So they're gonna look at like the budget, the actual costs remaining, is it within budget, and the progress. And they're gonna tie it to a particular task. Not opposed to it. Not opposed to it. Do I think that there's probably other types of softwares that's going to be able to handle it? You for sure, right? I'm actually going to create a brand new list. Budget, project budget alpha. We will go with list status. We're going to quickly go into list status. Use some custom statuses. We're going to say discovery. We're going to say design. Say something like deploy. And then we're going to say something like closing. Yeah, we're going to just do this here. Oops. And I'm going to have apply changes. So that's the thing here. I'm going to have task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4, task 5, task 6. We're going to insert here. Ooh, formulas. You better come on through. Now support column calculations as well as filtering, sorting, and grouping. You better come on. We're going to go with money. We're going to go with estimated cost. And I'm actually going to put this right here. I'm actually going to hide this column. Hide. I'm going to have another cost. Actual cost. If you go down and drop here, you can always look to see the rating, or you can change this. Just an FYI. Money's right here. Actual cost. I'm going to go right here and say, that's, not yet. We're just going to go and put this right here. What's the other one? Money. Remaining cost. Look at here. Look at here. And so what we can do here, and what's this? Oh, edit field. So you can go in here and edit field type. Oh, where is, hold on. I don't think I edit field. I'm trying to change. Change it to be a formula. How come? This is interesting, ClickUp. Why can't I just... Okay. We're just going to go with formula. You should be able to change it. Remaining cost. Also, something cool in ClickUp, you can go in and like write the tasks in here. This is the remaining cost of the budget item. So required in tasks. No, it's not. Okay. So, okay, what? Whoop. Where is, wait. Child, we have jumped from here and there. Okay, project out. Okay, here we go. I'm like, what is going on? Okay, so when I add here, where is, oh, remaining cost. Here we go. Remaining cost. And so from here, we have this right here. And it's a formula. So hold on one second. For task one, we're going to say this is an event. So we're going to say that for this task, I didn't mean to open this up too, folks. Hold on. Whoop. It's a bit sensitive today. We're going to say this is a, what do you call a mobile podcast studio. The estimated cost is $15,000. And the actual cost is $27,500. What we want to do is we want to select the field. We want to have the estimated cost, and we want to have minus the actual cost. And we want to, what's advanced editor? In here you can do all sorts of interesting things. You can do something with the start date, the due date, the date done, time tracked in hours, actual cost. You can do all sorts of fun stuff here if you want to, but we don't want to. But we just want to do actual estimated cost minus the actual cost. And we over. See that right here? We over. We over, folks. We're entirely over. So, with that said, folks, that becomes a problem. That becomes a problem. So, something to be mindful of, right? Of course, you can use ClickUp for this. Of course you can. But you have to think about how you're going to utilize this program when it comes to your tasks, when it comes to how the information is going to sync together. So one thing that you could even put here as a relational, this is kind of fun, is if there's a risk here. And what you could do is you could relate it to some sort of, this is going to be risk right here. Oop, that's not what I want. And then you could go from like the issue. What's this? You can be like the issue log. Boom. Add the column. Edit field. Sorry. You do. Man. This is like also way cool as well. And you can go and connect, boom, a risk to this. And the risk could be, hey, we may be spending too much money. That could be a budgeting issue. That could be a budgeting issue. So some things for us to be thinking through and thinking about when it comes to how do we go about the budget and the work ahead. All right, y'all. We are wrapping up. Excited to embark upon more Systems Lab Live. Next week, we're talking about risk management. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time. I'll be doing some good cool stuff within ClickUp. as well. And so we're going to have a blast, folks. Be sure to go and share this live stream with 3 people who are like, hey, I'm going through some budget stuff. I need to make sure that it's more robust. What should I be thinking about? We talked about the cost of change. We talked about rework. We talked about why we need to have a project quality plan. And so we out. Thank you all so much, and we'll talk soon.